Hi, I'm Andy Schmuckler. This is the first of a series of pieces that are an attempt to present a better human story um, that, on the one, that makes sense of what's happened to our species over the last 10 or 12,000 years, and also illuminates the nature of the challenge that we face right now in the world, and illuminates also the challenge that we face in the coming generations about whether we're going to get our act together as a species that's created a planetary civilization, or whether we're going to destroy ourselves. So I'm going to talk about a series of inevitabilities, or semi-inevitabilities, because there's really only one that I claim really is quite clearly inevitable. But the other is just sort of like, oh, it looks probable it would happen this way. So let's start with just the beginning of life. I mean, the story of human civilization actually really does not begin, for sure, until there's the beginnings of some kind of self-replicating whatevers that led to us. So it's part of the story. And one question about inevitability is, under certain circumstances, like here we are, third from the sun and this much water and all that stuff, whatever the circumstances are, how likely is it on a given that there will be planets, or that a given planet will to begin the process of the evolution of life, starting wherever it starts and with some kind of self-replicating thing, and then I think clearly the whole Darwinian thing, or at least as it's developed, it is inevitable that there will be a a set of shoots set off in various directions. It's not going to stay. If you start and you say, well, let's look at the beginning, and you've got something. You got that one something or whatever. It's not very various, but the nature of the evolutionary process is that there are mutations or whatever that might alter the genetic structure, and things will branch off. I think that that's inevitable. Not I've been interested in evolution ever since I got that idea. Well, I was interested in it before. I wouldn't have gotten that idea back in 1970. But but I'm not a trained evolutionary biologist. But I look at everything that comes by, and looking at the scientific sites. So I think I know what I'm talking about. And I think you could say that there's some probability that there are other places in the cosmos where life has begun to evolve, or already did evolve, and maybe it's already gone. Who knows? But what's happened here on Earth is amazing, and it may be improbable. But we got billions of stars in each of billions of galaxies, and already we can see that there are just lots and lots of exoplanets. So how, given the number, I mean, you can have something be very rare and there'd be plenty of them. So I'm imagining that the whole evolutionary process of creating a life system has happened on a variety of planets in the cosmos. We're not the only one. That's just seat of the pants thing, because I'm so impressed with the number of planets we know. We can infer from what we actually know. The number of astronomical, is that a good word for it? It's just huge. So therefore, we can talk maybe about inevitability. And I would say that maybe it's inevitable that under certain circumstances life will begin, and then it's inevitable that it will develop in a whole variety of directions, and then we can say, well, I think it's probably inevitable that it's going to create intelligence in species. My wife's been reading a book about what's it called, light eaters. You can even make a case that there's something like intelligence in the plant world. But anyway, just looking at the animal world, however you might imagine that, is life eventually, inevitably going to look like animals and plants the way we got it here? Of course, that doesn't, animals and plants are two versions also of the same thing. Different from what they call archaea. Okay, I don't know what evolution is going to look like, but one of the directions evolution seems to show that life is just hugely inventive. If there's an opportunity, if there's a path here to getting your DNA into the future, life's going to find that path, and something's going to develop that embodies that. Before human beings, there were brains. I don't really know how far back you go before you have to say, well, there's not a brain here. But fish have brains? I don't know. But certainly mammals all have brains. I think the dinosaurs all had brains. So that's going to be one of the directions that life's going to take. Maybe inevitably, that's how it looks to me. And then I think you can say that one of the offshoots of that evolution toward intelligence being one of the strategies for survival is that there's going to be ever increasing amount of it. I think it can be said that the dinosaurs who ruled the earth before the asteroid hit 66 million years ago, my impression is that they weren't very bright. My impression is that the mammals that have replaced the reptiles, and maybe the dinosaurs aren't reptiles. That whole dispute. But I think that the mammals are now ruling the earth, us especially, but going back before civilization, the mammals, I would say, in a way, were occupying the dominant kind of position that the dinosaurs had. I think we're smarter. That evolution has gone in the direction of smarter, and on our particular branch, if you look at the primates and you look at the division between monkeys and apes, is that what I want to say? There are lemurs and various things that are not nearly as smart as a chimpanzee. There were roots for being a primate that didn't involve a lot of intelligence. But there was also a route that leads to us, that we're part of, that we were 6 or 7 million years ago. There wasn't humankind and chimpanzees. There was our common ancestor. So we branched out, and they're pretty smart. What is it? Was it a gorilla that's Coco that was able to learn? We're not the only smart kinds of things. It's fascinating to see that the octopus, which doesn't live all that long, has got a completely different kind of brain, but it is smart. So it looks to me like not that evolution is going to be toward intelligence any more than it's toward a whole bunch of other things, but it is one of the strategies. And the more a species, the apes, the more you got investment in intelligence as a survival. It's the tool for survival. Well, the more that's going to get favored. There's going to be greater and greater intelligence is inevitable, more or less, that as that intelligence continually increases along one of life's lines, you'll reach a level of intelligence that has happened with our species. I mean, chimpanzees are smart, uh, but we've taken it a good deal further. And in the next little video here, I'll talk about how that inevitably leads to culture. It's not that evolution has a purpose. It's just that the choice for what can get its DNA into the future is very non-random, inevitably. And that life is opportunistic. So you're going to end up getting a smarter and smarter creature, because that's what's getting selected for. And then that becomes self-reinforcing, because as you get smarter, you get culture. Now, it's true that we're not the only creatures that have some culture. Like chimpanzees have a culture in which there's the tool, the known skill of getting termites, using a little reed or something to get termites out of a termite. Okay, that's culture. It's not an innate piece of knowledge. It seems to be handed down. And I think there are some other examples of actual culture, not just natural selection. And maybe if we had not risen as the especially smart ones, maybe another 20 million years down the line, the descendants of some other, I don't know, maybe not even a primate, but some animal would have found, perhaps, I don't know how inevitable this stuff is, beavers or raccoons, might they be an ancestor of something that gets smart enough to do it? I don't know. But my guess is that if it hadn't been us, it would have eventually been somebody. It's just one of the ways that things can unfold. But you can get to the point where you've got a creature which has got, a gift, a creative intelligence, not just dipping a stick, but developing a whole culture of tools. The use of tools in a way that is somewhat unique. I mean, not, otters use a stone to break open a shell. We're not the only tool users, and crows, do some tool use too. But we started developing, 3-4 million years ago. I think even back in Lucy's time, 3 million years ago, I think there's a culture of people making stones that are an intrinsic part of their way of life, weapons, and it develops. Culture gets started. And you can see the interplay of culture and biology. If I understand things I read some while ago, but I think it's valid and it's true, that as we use tools more and more centrally to our way of surviving, that inevitably led to a selection for a certain kind of hand. Our hand is like a chimpanzee's hand, but there have also been some changes, some of which I've read from people, in the field, that it seemed like they know what they're talking about. That over hundreds of thousands of years, you can see that the human hand, the human, whatever you want, hominid hand, is changing in ways that are connected with the fact that it's chosen culture. But more interesting to me is language. I believe that this is equally true, that that the fossil evidence shows that over, I'm not sure how well I remember. Is it 700,000 years? Does it come? Over the last 700,000 years, it would appear that there have been some anatomical changes, which are readily inferred to be helpful for the use of spoken language. And I don't recall whether there's any evidence about how our neocortex was emerging and becoming ever bigger. But it seems clear that this little channel of life that bore us out has created an intelligence. How to put this? That is so much the choice that we've made about how to survive that we are even biologically being changed into creatures that are really smart, that can do the kind of thinking that humans have long been able to employ to survive. Mike, I don't know, what the human societies were like. Let's see, the early Homo sapiens are like 300,000 years ago in Morocco, but do we want to go back to Homo erectus and stuff like that? What that was like? But there was culture, and there's the domestication, and that's not the right word, bringing fire under human control. This is an inventiveness that is in a self-reinforcing relationship with the DNA that's getting handed down, where there's a selective process for people with the right kind of hand and people with the right kind of vocal apparatus, and the people especially with the right kind of brain for a species that has chosen culture as its means as its basic strategy for and what culture is that which is handed down within the system, not through a genetic means, but through cultural means, like you teach your young, and you're speaking a language around your little kids, and they know that language. It just automatically happens. And there's a lot of biology involved in this, because there have been a lot of generations of selection, and you want the creatures that are best at playing the cultural game are the ones that get their DNA into the future, whether it's got a good hand or whether they're good at understanding verbal communication. Well, there's a whole bunch of things that go into being a culture, and that's what we did. And as we get smarter and smarter, and we develop culture more and more, and culture develops us more and more, I think it is inevitable that the creature will achieve the means of, and this is my definition of civilization, achieve the means of extricating itself from the niche in which it evolved biologically by inventing its own way of life. I don't think you can say of any chimpanzee group or any other group that they're living really differently from how they were living when they evolved biologically. It takes a creative capacity that didn't exist until our species. It was inevitable that such a species would emerge. Maybe it was inevitable anyway. That's what I'm arguing. And then it was inevitable that it would become ever more capable of culture. And then that culture would take a step that inevitably unleashed a destructive force that would warp the way its civilization would evolve. I believe that can be shown to be inevitable, and I will be back shortly to make the next installment of this thing about what happens when life begins on a planet and leads up to us where we are now, where we face the possibility that fascism will eventually destroy human civilization and might, in the very short run, destroy American democracy. And has already in the Ukraine and in Gaza destroyed the peace of the world. There's a force to be found here, and there's an inevitability about how such a force emerge. So if you want to see it develop systematically, more so than this conversational improvisation, go to a betterhumanstory.org. I guarantee you'll find it there laid out. But I invite you to come along with me. I'm excited to look at this picture because it really does put some important things in a significantly different light. Things like, what kind of creatures are we? Things like, why has history been as tormented as it's been? And things like, well, how should we understand the challenge we must face if human civilization is going to survive on this planet for the long haul rather than destroy itself? So I'll try to show something that really must be seen to understand what we're up against in the next video. Please come along. I appreciate it. And like and subscribe and anything else you can do to encourage me. I actually, having not succeeded in getting out something I think would have a beneficial impact, I actually could use encouragement. There's something at stake here important for all of us who care about the future of human civilization. And so check me out.